Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host tonight, Bill Hirschman. I'm editor and publisher of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And I'm here with our wonderful panel of experts in the local theatrical world. We'll start with Andy Rogo, artistic director of Island City Stage in Wilton Manors. Next to him is one of the best critics and editors in the area, Michelle Solomon. Oh, nice. And next to me is the founder of our feast, the wonderful actress, teacher, producer, Iris Acker. And today we have a terrific guest for you. Many of you know of him and others don't, and that's one of the great things about this. We have Larry Fields, who is the executive artistic director of Fantasy Theater Factory, which is now based in Miami. Again, there are a lot of people that aren't actually aware of you because of your special focus. Talk a little bit about Fantasy Theater Factory, which has been around quite a long time.
I love saying fantasy theater.
Okay, I'll say it that way. Fantasy theater.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a real thrill to be here. So Fantasy Theater Factory, yeah, we have been around for a very long time. We actually started in 1978. Our founders, Ed Allen and Mimi Schultz, both educators from upstate New York. And they had a dream and a vision to start a company, and they bought a rickety old van, and they started touring the country performing. We became incorporated in 1982. They traveled all over the country. We've gone international as well, but we found our way to Miami and put down our roots here as a company. And we have done theater for young audiences, touring theater for young audiences since that time. So we've been around for about 40 years. And up until just recently, we have operated in a lot of kind of lower visibility markets. We're in schools, we're doing programs, directly, for children and families. But now with the Sandrell Rivers Theater, we are expanding our programming. It's a really exciting time at Fantasy Theater.
Explain that a little bit about the new digs that you have and that you're one of the resident companies, et cetera, where it is.
Right. So the Sandrell Rivers Theater, Fantasy Theater Factory is the managing operator of the brand new theater. And we are working in partnership with Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs. And the theater is centrally located. It's right off of I-95 and 62nd Street. So it's right at Northwest 62nd Street and 7th Avenue. Right there on the corner, there's parking, which in Miami is, worth its weight in gold. A garage.
And it's free.
With our own spaces. I know, we nearly fainted when, when we learned. But yeah, so we're right there. We have a beautiful state-of-the-art black box theater, seats about 200 people. We have a dance rehearsal studio, which is also a secondary performance space for smaller, more intimate productions. And we have a multi-purpose room with the video screen and all of the bells and whistles, so we can have community meetings. So that has been the new big project for Fantasy Theater. We have, like I said, we've been around for a very long time, but...
Keep saying we.
Well, yeah, we.
Was that 1970? You haven't been with them since then.
Actually, it's really easy for me to calculate the time since the company was incorporated, because the company was incorporated in 1982, and so was I. So, not to date myself, but so I can go, oh yeah, we've been incorporated for 35 years because I'm 35. So, but it's definitely the we, because we are. It's not just me. That's for sure. It's a huge collaborative effort to do all that we do. We have 12 full-time staff members, and obviously we work with many more artists and freelancers, but I always say we have 12 staff members that do the job of 24 people. Wow. So,
do they double as actors?
Some of them do, actually. Our marketing director and our production manager, they both also go on stage for us when necessary. I still go on stage when I have to. If we had one of our actors got sick, and I know all of the shows because that's actually how I started. I started as a performer with the company before running it. So, and trust me, when I have to go out and do the shows, I'm reminded. I'm not in my 20s anymore.
When you say that you do all the shows, and this I'm going to betray my ignorance, do you have a repertory list of shows that you do regularly? Is that how it works?
Well, we do. We have what I call kind of, our FTF classics, the shows that we've had in repertory for a very long time, things like Cinderella, Fractured Fairy Tale, Little Monster Tales. We have these are our educational theater for young audiences productions that every time we bring them back up, they're updated, the references are updated, the music is updated. But yeah, so we have some of those shows that we've been doing for 10, 15, 20 years, we'll take them down for a little while, and put something else in. And we're also developing a lot of new works. And that's one of the other really exciting things about being in this new theater. We're able to, the touring wing, what we've done from the beginning, we're keeping. But we now have two wings of programming. We have the touring, community outreach, and now we have also in-house programming in the theater. So we're able to put up new shows with much better production value because we're installed in the theater and they're not meant to leave.
So who are you drawing at this new theater, since you now you have this resident space, you're not just touring to schools or whatever. Who are you bringing to this? Is it mostly the local community right around you? Are people driving from further afar?
Well, it's interesting. We find that depending on what it is that we're doing, and we've really expanded our menu of programs. We do something called Film at SRT and Music at SRT. These are each bi-monthly programs where we do film screenings, and these are not just things that are for children and families. We did Moonlight not too long ago. And I was in the audience for that, and it kind of hit me. I went,
For the
wow.
children.
Well, no, the Moonlight was for our adult audiences.
Because
would
that
think
has
so.
a real Liberty City background to it. For people
Absolutely.
that don't know Moonlight, Terrell Alvin McCraney, who is a playwright,
Hometown hero.
A hometown hero. So that must have been really something to see. I wish I had seen that in that theater.
And so depending on what we're doing, we've had people come from the neighboring communities. We're actually connected to an affordable housing development at the Audrey Edmondson Transit Village. So we've had people come just walking, from the apartments or from some of the other apartment buildings nearby, and they come to the theater. We have people come from Broward County. So really, it depends on what it is. We do some sensory-friendly performances that are for children and families on the autism spectrum. And for those, people come from all over the place. They're coming from South Dade, they're coming from Broward County because, it's a really specialized kind of programming where, the traditional rules of theater etiquette are kind of dropped, and they can feel comfortable, with the different behavioral issues that may manifest. So really the answer is kind of from everywhere, and depending on what it is that we're doing, sometimes we'll get, a little bit closer to local. Like for instance, we do summer camp now, and that's pretty, much within like a 5-mile radius,
But you're a daytime theater. You have to be, I guess. And yes, but only for children.
No, I mean, that has been up until a couple of years ago when we took over the theater, we were solely theater for young audiences. Our main focus is still theater for young audiences, but we have expanded out from that. We now do a program called New Year, New Works, which is a brand new play reading series that was actually headed by our production manager, Romel Arion Marinas. And that was for adult audiences. And our film series is geared towards adult audiences, and our music series as well. So we're really trying to build a mix of programs that's for everybody. We want to keep, our focus is children and families, certainly, but we are expanding out to provide a more diverse array of programs because we have this beautiful theater to program, and we really need to make sure that we're serving our entire community and not just one segment.
So a special actor needed for children, performing for children.
Well, certainly what we look for when we're doing our theater for young audiences is people with great physicality and great comedic timing. Because, our programs have roots in, commedia dell'arte and in slapstick and mime.
Yeah.
One of the great examples is our Cinderella. Our version of Cinderella, A Fractured Fairy Tale, draws from, the British pantomime tradition. And so we look for actors who have that ability. I always say if someone's auditioning and they throw themselves on the floor, with their monologue, I always go, okay, here's somebody we can work with. Because really, rigidity does not fly with our style of theater. We're really physical. We're really, that's just our, kind of our style. Where, it's kind of broad, and we really, we deal a lot in comedy, with our theater for young audiences. Not all of it, but in general, we look for performers who have those qualities.
Larry, let me ask you, in this video age where you go into a restaurant or wherever you go and kids are on iPads and kids are, phones to their hips or whatever, how do you engage that kind of, in that video cyber world, I guess, for lack of a better phrase?
Well, I think, today, even, now more than ever, theater is really important because you talk about that. I've been in restaurants and I look and I see, the family sitting at the table and everybody's head is down looking into a screen. And you go, this can't be good. This can't be good for a child's development. And even the CDC has guidelines about, how much screen time children should have. And, I think a lot of parents don't really know about that. They're, busy living in the real world. They have to work and they have other things to do. But I think, the theater is such a great tool to give children those opportunities for that one-on-one social interaction, that real life, real person, interaction. We do summer camp, for instance. The devices go off to the side. You can't have your iPad or your iPhone with you the entire time. So I think now more than ever, those opportunities to get children, especially children, because the generation we're talking about now, I think they call it iGen. It's the generation after the millennials. They're from cradle with these devices, and it's really going to change the way that we're able to communicate with each other, the way that we're able to relate to other people. You want to talk about all the things like empathy and the ability to read someone else's emotions. So we look at theater as a great way to bring people into that, kind of real world, put the screen down, and let's, actually have interactions. And even to see a show, to see a show live on stage, it's not a screen, it's not, I always say that in my curtain speech, you're going to see live actors on stage. They can see you and they can hear you. It's not the same as going to a movie.
Does the school board ever come to you and say, this is the kind of show we'd like, can you create this?
Oh, sure. Sure, yeah. We do a lot of the different kinds of programs that we create are in response to a particular community need. A great example, we have a show called Wales, Magic and Cheese, Oh My. And but it's a show that focuses, it's two-pronged. It's a reading incentive show, so it's based on a lot of popular children's books. The whole premise is that the books come to life on stage. But it also has a theme of bullying, anti-bullying, because we were approached by a number of, we would receive calls from educators, calls from different people, and they would say, do you have something about bullying? And we'd go, do we? Not really. So we created something. We created this brand new show, and we work with a terrific playwright. Her name is Gina Monte, and she has been working with our company for, since before me. So, and she's an educator herself. She's a mother to school-age children. So she has a really great imagination and a great way to, we sit down and talk about the theme that we want to cover, and then we start to create, a new script. So definitely we receive those kinds of calls, and then we respond to it. So bullying was a big one. We do programs about preserving our environment, which, anyone in South Florida knows how important that is.
Don't you have the trash monster?
We do have the trash monster. We do. We do the, and for those who don't know, the trash monster is, I like to call it an interactive art exhibit because it looks like just a huge pile of trash. When in reality, there's an actor inside. And that actor's been me sometimes. Earlier, in the earlier days, it was our founders, Ed and Mimi. And now it's, the actors who are working with us currently, but there'll be someone, and they'll just be kind of stationary. And we have, an outside person outside of the costume as well, an environmental educator who has, some talking points and, things about the environment. But people will kind of walk by, and we do this in fairs and festivals, and the monster will suddenly move. And people kind of go, whoa, what was that? and then people will gather around, and it's really kind of almost bizarre, the fascination that people get with the trash monster, and especially kids. What is that? Is there a person in there? And of course, go, well, no, it's just a pile of trash. But it's a great way to start that conversation because we say, well, did you know that the average person throws away about 5 pounds of trash a day in the United States? And we're, of course, #1 in the world when it comes to how much pollution and waste. And it really starts that conversation about, well, and what do you see on here that could have been recycled instead of being thrown out? And they'll say, oh, well, the plastic bottle. That's right. But it wasn't. And so it grew and grew and grew until we had this huge problem, the trash monster. So it's a great way, using art, using theater to drive those concepts home in a really kind of tactile way.
And I know that you must have a staff that somebody does education, because I know that you have, when you go into schools and things, you have learning, like lesson plan almost for a teacher.
Absolutely.
As I've read some of those, and they're very they're very detailed. So you must have somebody on board that's I don't know how you would call it, educational specialist, but when somebody like the Trash Monster or whatever your show is, I know you do a thing on vaudeville, that you can work with the teacher and they do a lesson plan, or I just thought that was interesting.
So yeah, no, they can go to our website and whatever show they're having, we have teacher guidelines and they correlate with the next generation of Sunshine State standards, and so that they can take the experience. It's not just a one-off experience that, oh, we're going to go and isn't it fun? We're either going to go on a field trip or the theater is going to come into our school and we're going to see something, but they can actually have those teacher guidelines beforehand so they can start talking about the concepts and what's going to, what's going to be happening in the show or the performance that they're seeing. And then they can have, some activities surrounding that so that it becomes a little bit more than just having gone and seen the show.
And just before we go any further, the website is?
The website is ftfshows.com.
F-
ftfshows.com. And we have another website for the Sandrell Rivers Theater because, for somebody who's not really necessarily interested in our programming, but they might want to rent the theater or see just what's happening at the theater, and that's sandrellriverstheater.com.
You
And that
share
is
it with
also
an
the-
ensemble, do you not?
Correct. Ensemble is one of our resident companies, yes.
Say one of our, so it's your theater.
Well, it's Miami-Dade County's theater, just to be to get really technical about it. Miami-Dade County built and owns the theater, and Fantasy Theater Factory has a long-term lease. And as part of that agreement, we also have Ensemble in residence as well, and we're really thrilled to have them. They do some really terrific work.
What about this participation?
Audience participation?
Do you get the children involved?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because we just started working with a show. It's called The Lorelei, and it's a brand new show. It's by Todd Kessler, who is the creator of Blue's Clues. And we were able to meet up with Todd, and he had this brand new show, which if you're familiar with Blue's Clues, the children's show, it was very interactive. The kids would talk right to the screen, and they would help the blue dog find the clues. And it was really a terrific show, and he's now moved into writing theater. Wow. So we're doing this world premiere production of The Lorelei, and it's all interactive with the audience.
Wow.
So we really break fourth wall with that one, and that's one that's actually installed in the theater. So it's a brand new production that's there, and we're going to continue doing that production. We're not just going to do it the one time. We'll continue to do it in our repertory, but it's very interactive. The children, have to yell out clues and help our protagonists. With what they're doing. So it's very exciting. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm sorry.
Is there an age at which somebody ages out of theater for youth? Like, do you have a target age range?
We do. For our Theater for Young Audiences programs, typically what we do is it's the elementary school grade levels. And sometimes it goes up into a couple of the grade levels of middle school. But really, for the Theater for Young Audiences part of it, ours is geared primarily towards elementary school. But what we find is that, in those situations where we do have a middle school or even sometimes a high school who has, called and said, hey, can we come? What we do is we tell those students, the middle school and the high school students, we say, okay, listen, the show you're about to see is geared for a younger age group, but we want you to watch it in a different way. We want you to watch it to see the way that the actors are performing, the styles and techniques that they're using, the characterizations. And what we find that does is it gives them license to enjoy the show. Because then we've leveled with them and we've said, okay, look, yeah, this is a show for younger kids. And we get that, but we want you to watch it from a different angle. And then they have that kind of license. And they enjoy the show just as much as anybody else. And the adults in our audiences, the teachers, one of the constant themes that we hear is, I enjoyed it just as much, if not more, than the students.
Well, do you get the sense, and this isn't rhetorical, I really don't have any idea, that you are beginning to build a new audience that has grown up with theater as an option, and that they go, I want to see more of this? Granted, they're awfully young, but do you get the sense that you're making converts?
Oh, absolutely. And that's really one of the things that we view ourselves as doing. We are creating the next theater patron of tomorrow, because I think it's very important to understand that people don't just, go through their whole lives without ever having attended the theater or even, the opera or whatever cultural event, and then into adulthood just suddenly magically start going. It's something that you really have to be conditioned for and grow up with. And with Fantasy Theater, we are a lot of children in South Florida. We're their first contact with theater because we're mobile, because you don't have to come to us. We hope you do come to us and come to our theater because it's beautiful. But we go out into the community. And so for a lot of children, we're their first contact with theater. Now, not every kid who comes to our show is going to, become a theater fanatic, but some of them are, and some of them will. We actually, there's a great little story we had a mother who used to bring her son, he was like 6 years old, and he would come, and they would come religiously to our programs at one of the libraries in Miami-Dade. And fast forward all these years, and he is now a junior at New World School of the Arts in college for theater. He comes back to us. He volunteers with us, in those times where he can. So we see so many little stories like that. People who come back. We did one of our shows, one of our sensory-friendly shows, and when people buy tickets on our website, they can put order notes. And one of the order notes was, my son saw this show at his school, and he was so excited that he could bring the whole family to see it at the theater.
Wow.
And you take a moment like that, and go, how about that?
Larry, I want to ask you a question about the financial barriers. I've done some stories where, especially in an underserved community, like you're kind of sitting right there. I've had people, that are want to be an audience, but they have financial barriers. I think when you're in an underserved community and you're going to make a choice, maybe that's not your choice. I just thought you'd be a perfect person to speak because of where you are.
No, and it's a wonderful point you bring up, and one of the things that we've really had to make sure of, because we're in Liberty City. And it is a really, economically depressed area. Now, the area, there's a lot of exciting things happening there. And, there's new building happening, and there's a lot of progress being made. But for a lot of the folks in our immediate surrounding area, they don't have the money to purchase a ticket. So we do rely on grant funding, and Miami-Dade County is one of the best arts councils really in this country in terms of their funding that they provide for the arts. Broward County is terrific, too. But we're able to offer programs for free. So the sensory-friendly performances that we do for children and families on the autism spectrum, even the film series that we're doing, those are free. They're by donation. If you have it and you'd like to make a donation at the box office, we're happy to take it. But as part of our programming mix, we have to make sure that in the theater, we provide a certain amount of that programming free of charge so that we remove that barrier. The parking is free in the garage, and we're also connected to a transit hub. So if you don't have a car and you need to take the bus, we're right there at the transit hub. So we really try to be as accessible as possible in that way.
Do you find, is there any barrier to people because you're in Liberty City saying, I'm not sure if I want to go there?
Right. We thought about that when we were first approached with this. We were looking at this beautiful, gleaming new facility, and we go, well, are people going to be, kind of reticent to come? And I'm happy to say that so far our experience has been no, they're not.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's great.
Because we're just a block off of I-95.
Yeah.
There is the garage. We have security at the theater, and we really look at what we're doing as sort of a catalyst for the area. The people in Liberty City, the people in that surrounding area, they deserve a great performing arts center to come to.
Nice,
And the mix that we have with, M Ensemble Productions in there, Fantasy Theater Factory, we're now starting to do programs, expanding out of just theater for young audiences. So there's really something for everybody, and a lot of it is low cost and free.
And actors love to do theater for children.
Oh, absolutely.
They really do. they feel it's their opportunity to overact a little bit. And they do.
I was always
Yes.
wondering about that. Is there a different acting style besides the physicality? Do you still have to inhabit a character and believe in your character?
Oh, absolutely.
Or can you go over the top?
You know, you can go over the top, but stay within the realm of the play. You know, and it's a fine line to walk. You know, now we've had obviously, you know, if it just doesn't make sense, if it's then, and I've had, you know, in rehearsal, I'll say, okay, I didn't believe that for like 2 seconds, you know, and it's okay. It's theater and it is heightened for sure, but there has to be that essential, you know, nugget of truth there. There has to be, so it's, in many ways, it's like any kind of acting. We have to believe that you're that character. You have to inhabit that role and, you know, and be dedicated to it. We never let anyone in our sphere get away with saying, oh, well, it's just for kids. No, absolutely not. We take it every bit as serious as any kind of other theater. You know, because if it's something that's worth doing, it's worth doing well. It's worth doing, you know, with a level of excellence to it. And that's what we've always done. And that's, I think, you know, attributable to our longevity and that we've been around as long as we have.
Well, one of the things that's amazing, again, people who are aware of you, who only think of you as children's theater, need to
Right.
be aware, go on your website and see the various other things that you're doing that appeal to other age groups, because again, you talk about children and family.
Right.
We are very, very grateful that you came and explained this all to us. It's very kind of you. And we hope all of you out there will start to go even more than before to the various and sundry wonderful offerings that they have at Sandra Rivers. Say it again, Sandra Rivers Theater, right?
Sandra Rivers Theater, right.
So, and we really appreciate you coming to see us again for another week. We hope to see you back here next week. If you have any curiosity what else is playing and what else to see in this region, check out our calendar on floridatheateronstage.com. I thank Larry, I thank our panel, but mostly I thank you. Have a wonderful evening and good night.